Hi, it's Dr. Winbush with Sankofa Healing Arts and Functional Medicine, and let's spend a few minutes talking about menopause, perimenopause, and sleep. So, during the menopausal transition, it's really common that people start to experience disruptions in sleep quality, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of those reasons include that the hormone levels are shifting and fluctuating. So, specifically, estrogen levels initially start to fluctuate before they fall. And those fluctuations contribute to hot flashes and to night sweats, which can significantly disrupt the quality of sleep. We also have progesterone, another major sex hormone that actually starts to fall several years before the menopause transition. And progesterone is really critical to sleep quality because our body uses progesterone to make some other substances, one of which is called allopregnenolone. You don't have to remember that, there's no quiz on that. But those substances that we make from progesterone interact with our nervous system. They interact with neurotransmitters like GABA that have a really calming influence on our nervous system and really help to set us up and prepare us for deep sleep and restful sleep. And so, as those progesterone levels fall, the levels of allopregnenolone fall, and that often can show up as challenges with sleep quality. In addition, stress levels often start to elevate during this period of life, depending on what people are doing. There's all of the normal reasons that people experience. I shouldn't say normal, but all of the reasons that people experience stress, interpersonal stress, professional stress. And then there are the physiologic changes that are happening. So if you're having disrupted sleep because of hot flashes and night sweats, that's going to carry over into your day. It's going to make you less stress resilient. You might start to see things like your cortisol levels increase, which, if they're still high in the evening, is going to set you up for another not great night of sleep. And so that can kind of continue this vicious cycle. Poor sleep at night makes us less stress resilient during the day, also increases levels of inflammation. It also can increase our blood sugar. It also can contribute to challenges with digestion. Sometimes, also, when we're under stress, we make different nourishment choices that can contribute to digestive issues. And so, there's lots of things that kind of fall into this bucket of increasing stress levels and how that can obviously impact our sleep. We already talked a little bit about neurotransmitters. We talked about progesterone and GABA. Serotonin, which is another major neurotransmitter, is very much impacted by estrogen. Estrogen supports uh, serotonin levels, and we need serotonin to be able to make melatonin, which most of us have probably heard about, which is another hormone that can be very supportive for sleep. It's also very anti-inflammatory, and so when melatonin levels fall, it impacts sleep quality. It also can lead to or be a contributor to increased inflammation. And so lots of things that are in the mix here. And as I said, it can really feel like a vicious cycle. But there are some things that we can do, some of which sometimes sound easier said than done. But I'll start with number one. We can identify and start to address some of the stressors. So again, it's not that we're ever going to have a stress-free life, but there are often things that may be contributing to our stress level, choices around certain routines, choices around certain nourishment options that increase our stress, and things that we can do to alleviate that. One of the things I always like to call attention to with the folks that I work with is how stressful it can be to actually go through our day in a state of dehydration, not drinking enough. And similarly, not eating enough or skipping meals is also quite stressful. So what are those things that we actually do have control over that we can impact, so that in some of those areas that we don't have as much control, we have more resources available? Next is doing what we can to really create an environment that's going to be conducive to sleep, and creating enough space and time to try to have adequate hours for rest. So, on average, most of us need at least 7 hours of sleep, if not more. And oftentimes, menopause is thought of as a second adolescence, and we think about teenagers and how much time they need actually for sleep because there's so many changes happening in their body. I actually think that we would be helped to think about menopause that way and try to create the space in our life to have adequate hours in bed to at least try to rest. Um, Intuition. A lot of us get inklings of things that we might want to try to do, or things that maybe we ought to try not to do, that would be supportive for our health. And sometimes we may ignore those or not let those rise to the level of conscious awareness. And so at any point in our life, I think it's really helpful to create the space and the time to check into our intuition, but even more so during this perimenopausal transition. Nourishment choices definitely have a role, as we talked about. Fluctuations in blood sugar are a big stress. So what we can do to eat in a way that's going to not cause those fluctuations in blood sugars. So eating lots of whole foods, richly colored fruits and vegetables, fiber will help quench inflammation, help to support the blood sugar, and help hopefully to diminish some of those levels that can be sort of driving this cycle that we've talked about. Stress reducing practices, there are so many, and it's really figuring out what works for you and realizing that it's not that you need to sit on a meditation cushion for 20 minutes twice a day, although if you do that, that's wonderful. But even just very brief practices, a couple of mindful breaths, a moment to set an intention or say a prayer of gratitude before you eat a meal, and doing a couple of things throughout the day is really a great start to try to reset our nervous system in a way that's going to support us throughout the day, but also make it potentially easier to set us up for sleep at night. There are herbal helpers and mineral helpers, things like ashwagandha and vitex and maca, all of which have slightly different properties and roles that they might play in helping to ease this perimenopausal transition. Certain minerals like magnesium can also be calming and supportive for the nervous system. And again, these come in multiple forms and multiple dosages, which I'm not going to go into here, but working with a practitioner or working with someone who is familiar with those can be a great resource to help potentially support you during this period. And then it can also be helpful to do some testing, to do routine laboratory testing, to do functional lab testing, to look at hormone levels, which can be looked at in a variety of ways, to look at estrogen and progesterone and some other hormones like DHEA, to look at cortisol levels and to look at them not just at one time point, but throughout the day. These are all pieces of information that can be helpful in supporting you during the perimenopausal transition and potentially setting you up better for sleep, as well as addressing some of the other uh, chronic symptoms and experiences that people have during this period. And then finally, hormonal supplementation. And that can, again, look like a variety of approaches. There's different ways that you can administer hormones. And it's not also an option that is necessary or necessarily even indicated for everyone, but it can be very supportive. It can be very effective in alleviating hot flashes, alleviating night sweats, and dealing with some of those uh, shifts in the hormone levels that are contributing to those. So I hope that this overview provides some helpful information. Feel free to leave a comment, to send me a message, or to set up a call if you'd like to talk a little bit more. Thank you.